Hello, everyone, and welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon. Big news, calling for kind of an emergency live show. Will Mann is going to be joining me. Ralph's still driving throughout the dangerous roadways in Columbus, South Columbus, in fact. So prayers out to him. We're talking college football. We're talking about a brand new expanded playoff here on tonight's episode, live edition, Thursday night, the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. Coming on the Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
All right, we're rocking and rolling here on a Thursday evening. Bryce Koon alongside Will Mannis. Like I said, Ralph is just traversing the dangerous roadways of.
That's a great way to put it.
He's just traversing. Dude's been driving a lot this week, in fact. So good for him.
Twice as much as most weeks.
Twice as much. And the good thing is that he is actually earning that $175K a day. Like, if you're going to make it, I'm cool, if you make it. But hey, tonight we're talking college football. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well. We had a ton of people watching on Twitter last time. Come over to the YouTube so you can get your comments in as well. And we'll see and have a lot of fun. Already got some people in there. We got Key to Success. We know who you're a fan of. John Burns, as always. This is actually a really good comment, by the way. Pretty soon it'll be like March Madness. Mm-hmm. And then will the ACC and Big 12 become one, maybe 3 30-team conferences? That's actually a very interesting personally, that's actually very interesting concept. We're going to talk about it a lot. Before we do, Will, big question. When you were fired from the show for some time, I'm just kidding. When you were with us, not that you were dead or anything, you just weren't on the show. Ralph and I used to do like a question of the day. And so I was on a walk this afternoon and I said, let's just like the people can learn more about us. So our question of the day, before we lock it in here, what type of shampoo do you use and why? So you walk with me here. Are you particular or are you just picking something off the shelf says, hey, if it smells good, I'm good?
Well, here.
Oh, and we
very concerned about keeping.
Oh, okay. Now you're back. You're back. You were frozen for a second.
Okay. Well, I've just recently become very particular because I'm very worried about keeping this hair that I have. So I use a shampoo. The brand's called Everyman Jack. It's a men's thickening shampoo.
Okay.
Just trying to keep the hair that I have because I think genetics are not on my side. So I'm trying to keep it as long as I can.
I have some Everyman Jack. Someone gave me some body wash. Smells good stuff. Now, strictly tied to Dr. Squatch. That's what I utilize. But I'm
you threw that in the garbage.
So I threw it in the garbage immediately. Thanks, Grandma. But I do want to say this because a lot of people use different stuff, and I've gotten hated on recently. One, because in a previous podcast I was recording with Logan talking about Adam Duvall, which you were also super excited about. We were too. You can say right here, Bryce. Starbucks strawberry acai water. I like Yasso bars. I've already had one tonight. And this might go with the theme of the shampoo that I like to use. I'm a Garnier Fructis guy through and through. Like it smells great. It feels good. And see, my problem is my hair is like really thick. So it's got good thickness in my hair. And, I don't know. It keeps it from drying out.
I've got a video for this.
All right. I'm nervous about what you're pulling up right
now. To describe
your reaction.
My reaction to this.
I'm gonna make a banner so people know what we're talking about.
Yep.
We'll do QOD.
Are we ready?
Yeah. I mean, if I can, yeah. Go ahead.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
Whoops. Let's not do that. If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah. No, I kind of knew where you were going. I could think of a certain little GIF that you would use where your dog goes like this. Yeah,
That's a great
NFL.
show.
It is.
Community, great show.
It is.
Funny show.
John Burns, is this a football show or a beauty parlor? John, we're introducing back questions of the day. We're trying to keep those luscious logs that we have. And I'm Garnier Frutis, and Will is Everyman Jack. But you still should check out Dr. Squatch. They do have good stuff. I just haven't really used it a lot.
Both John. John, it's called Range. It's called Range. We got that around here.
Well, we're trying to diversify our portfolio. That's a business term, right? That's what they have. Hey, welcome in.
Somebody has an MBA.
Somehow. The woman in there really helped me get it. So it is what it is. Hey, college football. That was our question of the day. College football made some headlines today, Will. And in support of the traditionalist of what I like about college football, I'm sporting my FCS team today because I don't know, man. College football potentially expanding to a 14-team playoff. I know you weren't a big fan of the expansion to begin with. Before we kind of get into this, I wanted to lay out what this means. This is expected to confirm between the 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame tomorrow that when this new TV deal in 2026 starts, there's going to be an updated revenue model, and it's going to go to a 14-team playoff. The SEC and the Big Ten, who are firmly ahead, like miles ahead of what we have going on across college football, those two teams or conferences, they are going to get each 29% of the upcoming contract. That's going to be $22 million per school. The ACC is essentially, they feel like the third conference. They're going to get 17, which is around 13 to 14 million per school.
Yeah. So let's
go ahead.
Let's go ahead and say why the ACC is viewed at number 3. You all can thank Clemson for that. Clemson for all their playoff appearances. They went by total number of playoff appearances for each conference.
Yes, very true.
So thank Clemson for that.
Clemson, yes. So ACC gets the nod over the Big 12, 17%. That's going to come out to $13 or $14 million a year. The Big 12 just behind them at 15%, $12 million per school, which I kind of feel like that's pretty good for the Big 12, especially when you're losing Texas and Oklahoma. Yeah. Like outside of that, it's what, TCU? It's TCU. That's it, right? I mean, there's no one else that's made a playoff. Complaining. No.
Well, it's just been Oklahoma and TCU that have made the playoff from the Big 12.
Well, Texas last year.
Okay, true. What is that?
Wow. That was a light bulb going in and out. So the numbers represent a raise across the board. Approximately $5 million per school in the previous contract. So it is something that's good. Like, let's get that out of the way. It's something that is good in terms of money per school. The problem with this is conference expansion was good in money per school. The fact of the matter is with this, and I know you got some banners there for us. We'll kind of, just talk it right here. Oh, you clicked it. I'll let you click it. I do that to Ralph too. The problem is that, more money's great, but what does more money mean? Is the $5 million a year worth 2 or 3 less wins for conference expansion? And now you get into the college football playoff, which is obviously we talked about this at length a couple of weeks ago. It's inventory. So your thoughts on this 14-team playoff and how you feel about
it? I'm getting to be more and more indifferent as the days go by, because you're still going to see the top teams, make it to the end, make it to the semifinal and the final. I think we're still going to see the same 4 teams, because it takes a lot. It's going to take a lot for your Rutgers, for your South Carolinas, for your TCUs to go back and to elevate themselves and get into the playoff. It's going to take a lot. Sure, that $5 million a year is going to help, but guess what? Every other school is getting that extra $5 million on top of what they already get, which is more. I mean, the more spending power you have, the better facilities you can get, the better coaches you can get, the bigger NIL you can give to kids. So, it's not really helping the teams in the bottom or the bottom half get to the top at the end of the day, because, I mean, you look at since 2014, the first year of the college football playoff, it's been pretty much the same teams every single year. I can't think off the top of my head how many there is. I want to say it can't be more than 12 different programs have made the playoff. in a 10-year span. But obviously, it's kind of hard to sit here and say that without seeing it on the field and kind of assuming that teams aren't going to get better, which you hope that they will. But it's hard to imagine a Rutgers and Iowa. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't use Iowa because they could. Well, Big Ten's getting rid of Division II, so I was going to say they could mess around and win the Big Ten like they just about did this year, and get in. But yeah, the teams, I think it's just more of the same. It's just more of the same what we'll see in the playoff.
And I want to point this out too. So it expands. Okay. The first thing casual fan thinks, and I'm not getting onto a casual fan, I'm just saying the first thing, like if you're not really watching this stuff, the first thing that you see and think of is more opportunity. Oh, there's more opportunity. Well, let's pause here because there's kind of two schools of thought. The early reports, and this is not something that has been solidified. I'm guessing we'll learn more tomorrow or in the coming days. One of the biggest things that was kind of, pointed out was, okay, it could get as many as 4 automatic qualifiers from the SEC and Big Ten. And then you could get down to, that's 8, okay, in a 4-team. And then you could get down to 2 per in the ACC and Big Ten, and then you go into the group of 5. There's also now some, models that have the 3-3-2, 3 in the SEC, 3 in the Big Ten, 2 in the Big 12, 2 in the ACC. I'll sit here with this, Will. Here's my biggest thing. The college football fans that want to see, we're always going to have those teams. And maybe we do a show on this, teams that we would have liked to see in a playoff. That's actually a pretty good idea of teams that we would like to see in a playoff. We would have liked. Your 2011 Oklahoma State. Remember that team? That was really good. 2021 Cincinnati. 2022 TCU was one of those teams where, that was one of those. But Boise State, UCF, that 2017 team, all these different things. The path to just say that you were there is easier. The path to do anything with once you get there is not easier. You're still going to have to beat 2 SEC teams to even get to the top 4.
Yeah, it's harder now. It's harder for, your group of 5s. That 2017 UCF team, you'd have to rattle off if they got in, they would be the one group of 5. So you would think that they would be in a 14 or a 12 team model. They'd be the 12 seed or the 14 seed just because they're group of 5. They'd have to win 4 games to win the national title.
I mean,
against, top 5 teams in the country, arguably. I mean, you look at the top 7, you're kind of splitting hairs most years with most of those teams. But yeah, you talk about the different models. CBS Sports reporting that a 3-3-2-2-1 model gaining the most traction. Big 10 SEC get 3, ACC and Big 12 get 2 each, and the group of 5 gets a guaranteed playoff bid. Like I said, that group of 5 team, they're going to have to rattle off 4 wins in a row against teams better than them. I mean, let's be real. They're going to be better than them. So that's very difficult. That's a very tall task to say that it's easier. But like you said, it's much easier to get there and to get the little patch on your jersey and a banner to hang. That's easier. But actually getting the job done, it's in fact harder.
Dr. Bob says Cincinnati in 2021 only had to beat 2 SEC teams. Now they'd have to beat at least 3. I mean, it's not going to be, guys. And I'll just say this. We kind of go back to 24 hours ago, especially in our Discord with a lot of the ACC fans. The ACC and the Big 12 agreed to this. What does that tell me? They don't have a choice. Like it's really do this or get left behind. And because the SEC and Big 10, they don't care, Will. And it just feels like we are heading towards. It's like these 2 massive trains, okay? And they are just hurtling towards this inevitable, we're just going to go do our Super League type deal. And in the meantime, either you participate with us or not. And so I think that for me is where I don't like what Greg Sankey's doing. I mean, I liked a lot of the decisions that Greg Sankey has made, as an SEC guy, as a guy covering in the SEC now. I know you're an Auburn fan. What he's done for the SEC to position them, yes, that's great. What we're doing now it's about greed to me. Like it's about greed and money. Yeah. And you mentioned it kind of when you said it. It's like this is one of those things where it's like, oh, okay. Like it's not surprising anymore. And I think we're all just like, we'll watch, but it's like it's not going to be football that we grew up on. And in defense of it, football that our parents grew up on was different when we were younger. So there's always going to be change. I just don't necessarily love where I think we're going.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to defend Greg Sankey a little bit because he's doing his job. So
True.
he's the easy target because he's the face for the SEC. But he's just doing his job. His job as commissioner is to do what's best for the conference, and that's financially what's best for the players. That's why, the SEC looks to expand. They just go to Texas and Oklahoma. They don't do and in the Big Ten's defense of that, they didn't have much choice. They had to go West Coast. They had to get Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington. They had to go get them and make a literal nationwide conference. The ACC didn't have a choice. They had to go out West and get more teams. But, he's doing his job. So it's easy. He's the punching bag here. It's easy to do because he's the face making all the decisions, but it's probably coming from more people behind him, probably greedier people than the people that really get their hands on that money. Of course, he's going to get a raise too for his work in doing it, but not nearly what these institutions are going to get.
Yeah, and here's a great comment from John Burns. He says TV's throwing all the punches. Exactly. And one of the things,
absolutely,
Will, if I'm reading this article correctly, over on CBS Sports, is that there's a deadline tomorrow. That's what it sounds like. Like, here's the deadline it's the wording of this is crazy. A tweet from Heather Dinich of ESPN says, for them to let the CFP know if they're going to participate or not.
Who's in charge here?
Let's just break that down for a second, because one would just assume, like, let's go back 20 years. BCS. Like, everyone just knew the BCS and okay, it is what it is. Like, we're going to do this. And even in the 14 playoff, there was never really thought of this. When you see the tweet from a prominent ESPN, personality to let them know if they're going to participate or not, what does that mean? Like, what if we're just sitting here and we're having a conversation of, like, let's use this past last year. What if Florida State would have just said, we're not going to participate, we're just going to do our own thing, and other teams would have gotten on board with that? Like, could there really be another playoff that rivals what ESPN is building? Like, that to me is nuts to think about.
Well,
but that writing, that language makes you think that maybe that's not a completely closed door type of situation.
It's interesting to see what that really means, because you've had teams, that 2017 UCF team claims a national championship, but does it really mean anything? Nobody really takes it seriously other than UCF people. And they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but the country as a whole does not take it seriously. And you weren't really the national champion.
Yeah.
So, like, really, what does it look like? But it also just shows what we've been moving toward. College athletics is dying as a whole.
Yeah.
And because they're talking about the men's basketball tournament, and I think the women's too, expanding the basketball tournaments. There's already 68 teams. Why do you need more? It's just for TV. Like you said, it's just inventory. And it's going to come to a point that, at least for football and basketball, at least men's basketball, it's going to be professional. Yeah. You're just going to have the license from the school to use their colors and their logos and be affiliated with the school, but you don't go to class. You're not a student athlete. You're just an athlete. Mm-hmm. And it's totally changing. It's almost to the point where there is no return, because now you've let the players get paid for their name, image, and likeness. Ooh,
yeah.
Struggled there. You let them transfer any time they want to. And if you deny them, they'll just sue you, so they can transfer anyway. Sue the NCAA so they can transfer anyway. It is completely changed, completely different. And I don't think we can go back to the way it was before.
Yeah, we were having a conversation over on Discord about it, and someone had mentioned, I don't necessarily love the NIL aspect of what it is, and that's fine. That's an argument we've been having for years now. I don't mind NIL. Like, I don't mind the idea of what this is, and it's kind of funny. I'm going to go back actually to, it's very much smaller level where you don't get athletic scholarships, but when NIL came about, I still had some friends that were over at Barry, and these guys were playing football. And there's a wing place we did a couple shows there actually, called Jefferson's Wings in Rome, and they did like a radio promo for their broadcast, and like it was like or TV promo or whatever, and they did it, and the guys were in there eating wings, like, hey, we're NIL deal, and I'm sure they got some type of little like gift cards, or like, hey, every time you come here, you get free 6 wings or something like that. That's what this is based off of. Like, it's based off of like, hey, quarterback gets a deal with local card wash or local dealership to promote a product. is what they did. They just opened Pandora's box,
Mhm.
and this is fully on the NCAA of all this type of stuff. And I think what it has done is, I know we're kind of crossing lines here with NIL and expansion and all this stuff, but it's because it's all together. Is when they opened Pandora's box, people knew they could make money off this sport because they have been forever. For me, what it did is it opened the eyes even further at, holy cow, look at all the opportunities we have to make money. It's not just off of a game. Now it's off of these kids. The kids can make money off of this. Like, I think it really blew the doors off of, here's the business of college football. When all this stuff hit, you saw 500 more ways to make money off this thing. And unfortunately, that's kind of what they're predicating over the product that we love. And I kind of hate that.
Yeah, I do too, because there was something special about college sports. It was different than pro sports, but now they're even changing the rules to make it more like pro sports. Like, college football is going to look like the NFL, having a 2-minute warning,
which is just to sell commercials.
Helmets. Yes, it's just to sell commercials. Communications in the helmet, that's fine. I don't really have a big problem with that. But that's exactly what the NFL does, and that's why you have college football fans, because it's different from the NFL. And now that it's all turning into the same product, it's going to be very interesting to see if it changes anything at all. Because the only way that it will change is if people stop watching. If they stop getting the eyeballs. That's the only way that it's going to change.
So that's that conversation. And that's a whole topic of conversation we can have. I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to get that. I think I will say immediately they're not going to, because, we got a comment on a show a couple weeks ago about, well, I only like to watch my favorite team. And that's true. Like, there are some fans that genuinely just watch their team on a Saturday. They turn the TV off and they go to other stuff. And then there's, and this is a good topic of conversation. Then there's a crowd of, like, people like us. We love watching the sport. We'll sit there all day Saturday. But then there's the gambling.
He's alive.
He's alive. He's alive.
Ralph Leary is alive.
Good for Ralph. Well, here's a topic of conversation. What does this do for the betting community? I think that's a big reason too. The more opportunity to have games to bet on, the more inventory in that sense. Like, people are always going to watch because sports gambling is becoming more and more readily available. We saw it just pass in North Carolina. It feels like Georgia could be the next domino to fall. But your thoughts? I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's going to be something that's going to, you can't just eliminate that, because that's a whole nother industry that's involved in this. Right.
Yeah. That's as big as sports betting has become. It's kind of driving everything, because, it gets the ratings, it gets the views, people watch it, and it's because they've got skin in the game.
Yeah.
And there's no change in that either with all the different states passing laws. There's no change in that either.
Yeah. TriStar with a great comment here. I'll throw it up. He said, this isn't for the players or fans or rivalries or traditions or regionalism. I thought he said religion at first. But for some people, football is religious. It's only for a select few people to pocket profit. These schools have to spend 100% of the TV deal for tax reasons. It is interesting stuff. So we talk about that. TriStar also says Alabama spent $25 million on a barbershop. All D1 Power 5 programs, universities have top of the line facilities. And I'll be honest with you, I think 10 years ago in recruiting, facilities mattered. I don't know if they matter as much anymore. They matter. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if it's like when just talking with kids and recruiting, it's like, yeah, the facilities are cool. But like 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was like that really mattered. And I'll even say this, if you don't already have a top of the line facility, there's not as much initiative to build one at this point. Like, Auburn's a great example. I feel like they got theirs in right before everything.
Well, I think Auburn got in late. I mean, Auburn had discussed a football-only facility for nearly 10 years, and they could never get it approved. The Board of Trustees wouldn't pay for it, and it was, just more dramatics.
Yeah.
Just Auburn being Auburn type stuff. But, they've got it now, and you said it was really great timing, because, like you said, if you don't have it, you're even further behind.
Yeah. No, and then there's not much incentive to even build it, because it's such a investment
until you start falling behind.
But then when you fall behind,
it still matters. It still matters.
Well, and look, Georgia Tech's in a similar situation. They've been trying to build this onto this corner of the stadium for, it feels like 25 years at this point. But it's like they have so much debt. Like if you're a program that has so much debt and doesn't operate in the black,
Well,
is it technically still worth to even continue to try to do that, or do you allocate that money elsewhere? And then you can't allocate that to necessarily Nile. What
it's
you got?
interesting you said that because I don't follow Georgia Tech closely, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
But they just did approve a $10 million upgrade to the baseball stadium. So Tech must be a baseball school.
Well, I'll tell you, Mark Teixeira approved that. Like, there's just no, that's just that's easy. I mean, that's just easy to go ahead. That's not a secret for anybody. I mean, we know where that money came from. So, but I will say, Tech baseball stadium is unbelievable. Great place. Let's talk about this. So we talk about. Let's get this comment real quick. Coming from someone who talks to players and whose family donates to Tennessee and has had family who has played multiple sports at Tennessee, these players and coaches and fans hate all this. I think coaches do. I thought Kirby Smart's comment the other day at Pro Day was very telling, Will. He said, yeah, NIL, you're going to make this. NFL, you're going to make this. And but the problem is that a lot of programs can't say that they're putting guys in the NFL like that. So it pays. I don't agree. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. Whole nother conversation. Let's talk about this, though. It's going to expand to potentially 14 teams in 2026. This is going to line up with a new media rights deal for the playoff, which is just hilarious. Pretty much ESPN saying, are you going to participate? Like ESPN's going to have some separate, like, could you imagine if you had, this is nuts to me. We're going to get to what this means for the specific teams. What if you had like a CBS playoff, an ESPN playoff, or like a CBS league? And could you imagine like the AFC is CBS? Because like, think about the NFL.
How do you,
AFC is typically CBS, Fox is NFC.
It's turning into the NFL.
It's
going to
crazy.
They see all the money that the NFL makes, and the people in college football want the same thing. They want to make that money.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I mean, it's going to be fun to see. We go to 14 teams, 2026. I'll go ahead and put it out now. I think in 2026 2025 will be the last of the conference championship games.
They don't matter.
It'll be the end of it. They will not matter. If you're giving the SEC and the Big Ten 3 automatic qualifiers, why play a conference title game? If you give them 2, what's the ACC and the Big 12 getting 2? What's the point of playing a conference championship game? You're hurting yourself by playing in the game because you're already in if you're number 1 and number 2 in your conference.
Yeah.
Think if your quarterback gets hurt. Think if what happened to Florida State this year, if that happened in the ACC championship game, that would be the end of it for the ACC. Nobody would want to play the title game.
Well, let's add another layer to this. I cannot wait for this conversation. Let's go on the low end. Let's say it's a 3-3-2 model. 3 SEC, 3 Big 10, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12. I cannot wait for the argument between the 4th best team in the SEC against the 3rd best team in the ACC. Like, I can't wait for that because it's going to be a 3-loss SEC team and let's just say a 2-loss ACC team.
Maybe not. I would say 2-loss.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say the number 4 team will be 2-loss.
So I'm telling y'all, they're stacking it for themselves. I said this about 2 months ago. I said, if you're Florida State, you get out. Get out as soon as possible. And I'm going to tell you that number, whatever it is, and I don't care how crazy people think it is, at some point, these donors are going to look at one another and say it's worth it. Let's eat that money to get out of here so we can because that cost is more than what we're missing out on. And we can't afford to continue to miss out on that stuff. I'm going to tell you one thing. They're not going to stop there. Like the SEC is not going to stop at 3 because then in 2032, it's going to be like, well, we've got 6 double-digit win teams. We got 6 teams with 9+ wins. Why don't we just do our own thing? That's what's going to happen.
They'll go to the college football playoff and say we need to expand to 24 teams. We need to expand to 32 teams. Because look at all these teams that could win a national championship just in our conference. It's not fair. That's what they'll say. It's not fair to us that we only get 3 teams in.
I want to try to see something because you're 110% right.
And I think TriStar is exactly right here, saying there's a scenario when you could have 3 12-0 teams in the SEC, depending on scheduling, depending on who plays who. But
fair.
Yeah, you could definitely have 3 12-0 teams.
All right, you want to listen to this? Try to keep count if you got a piece of paper. All right. The national championship betting odds in 2024. We talked about this on Monday night. But pay attention to the teams I'm talking about and what conference they're in. Georgia, SEC. Ohio State, Big Ten. Texas, SEC. Oregon, Big Ten. Alabama, SEC. LSU, SEC. Ole Miss, SEC. Michigan, Big Ten. Notre Dame is plus 2,200, Will. They are the 10th team. That's the first time we have a non-SEC Big Ten team. Okay, well, whatever. Keep going. Penn State, Florida State. Clemson comes in at plus 3,000 odds. They're number 13 ranked odds. That's the first ACC team. Tennessee, Missouri, A&M, USC, Oklahoma.
If
the first Big 12 team's Kansas State, they're number 21.
If you're in a state where you can bet, there sounds like some value there, because those are some really good teams that have really low odds according to Vegas of winning the national title.
Excuse me, Florida State's the first ACC team. They are 11th at 2,000. But what I'm saying is, if they're going to, let's just, because Vegas is right more than not. If you just go off based off like the top 25 odds, the SEC is going to come up with their list. Big Ten's come up with that list and say, okay, in the top 25, there's 3 ACC teams and there's 2 Big 12 teams. The rest of the other 20 teams, and Notre Dame, the other 19 teams in that situation are SEC and Big Ten. Why don't we just have a playoff for these teams? Like, I think that conversation is going to happen in the next 5 years, because it's not going to be enough. And we'll have an argument in 2 or 3 years. Perfect example is going to be like a 9-3 LSU and a 10-2 Louisville. That's what's going to happen. And LSU is going to get in over a 10-2 Louisville due to quality of schedule, strength of schedule, quality wins. Like, I think you're going to have we talk about basketball. I think you're going to have like quadrant wins. Like, that's what we're going to have to start having to be able to really kind of get into this.
I think the only thing I want to say about your argument, because I do agree, but I think you're looking at a 9-3 ACC team, because a 10-2 ACC team could be number 2 and be in automatically. So you're looking at two 9-3 teams.
Yeah.
You could have 9-3 teams, have like 4 9-3 teams that'll all be tied for second in the ACC. And you have to pick from one of those 3.
This is a good comment. I don't know how much of our audience watches this, but he goes, TriStar says, ask NASCAR about chasing money and angering your core audience. They did that. And they really turned a lot of people away. He goes, this is just like what NASCAR was doing in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'm not a massive wrestling fan, but I'd also believe this is kind of what wrestling started to do. It's just a money grab. And I know we talk about that, but Will, like, I'm going to ask you this, and I think I know your answer. What's to stop the SEC and Big Ten of doing what we're talking about?
People stop watching. That's the only answer.
Well, what's the real, like, how far down the line do we have to get for that to happen? And I know you've been really vocal about it, but for the casual fan, like, let's just, like, LSU fan lives outside Baton Rouge, diehard season ticket holder. Like, they're going to keep watching because LSU is going to be amongst those brands. So what's different than that in the NFL?
That's the only way. The money is gonna have to stop coming in. That's the only way. And the NCAA has been stripped of all their power by Congress and the courts, so they can't put a stop to it. And they're just kind of sitting idly by. So it's the Wild West. That's the only way to describe it.
It's the Wild West. It's the only way to describe it. And Mr. Singh had a fantastic, I'm going to call him Dev. Dev had a fantastic comment on last week's Georgia Tech show. And he's mentioned this a lot of times, a really good conversation about it, where he kind of talks about this. And he says, like, people aren't going to watch. I get it. Like, if this happens, Georgia Tech fans will stop watching. They're going to casually watch Georgia Tech play in some mid-tier conference. And I'm just using Georgia Tech as an example because a lot of our audience is that. But a team like Georgia Tech, a team like Kentucky, Vanderbilt, like these programs they're going to watch their teams casually. They'll get together for some college reunions and go watch it with the buddies. But there's not going to be a vested interest in what's going on. So to me, what you're going to see is a lot of even more just, I don't really care, like, about what's happening with my program, what they're doing. But then I don't ever see the Alabama fan base not watching. Will, I don't see the LSU fan base not watching anymore. And
well,
that's
Alabama's going to have to get really bad for them to not watch because they've
just take the
they've
big
not
brands,
watched
the big
Right.
brands. Like, Will, USC has not been good in a long time. Miami has not been really, really good in a long time. Those people still watch.
Yeah, Auburn still watches. Auburn fans
Yeah.
still watch. Still sell out Jordan-Hare Stadium last year. So it's just it's in a sad state. It's a sad state of affairs.
And it's like I don't even like listen to this. This is nuts. The Athletic just reported this. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we
There
go.
you go. That see, folks, that's where that LSU paycheck is going to.
The Athletic. It's great.
Bryce,
$1.
subscribing to the Athletic.
$1, baby.
It is great. I love the Athletic.
All right, listen to this. So this is actually just some news has started to come out. We knew this. This was back in February. ESPN College Ball are in agreement on a 6-year, $7.8 billion good God extension that makes them the network home of the 12-team playoff. Okay. That means that Big Ten and SEC schools are going to receive $21 million each from ESPN's new deal, on top of what the Big Ten network. So just Big Ten is going to receive $80 to $100 million each by 2030. It's going to be over $100 million per school. And the ACC is on the CW channel.
I was going to say, meanwhile, they're playing on the CW. But this is, never mind. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
Go there. It's
no. That what I was going to say is going to send us down the road. But I will say this is in the same vein of what I was going to say. I don't want to hear any of these colleges in the SEC, these universities in the SEC and the Big Ten complain about not having enough money to do something. I don't want to hear any more of it because your football team is funding your entire institution. You can go research, do whatever you want to do. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do not. I don't want to hear any whispers of, oh, we don't have enough money to do that. You do. You have more than
anybody
enough.
who tells you that colleges or we don't have the money to do that, they're lying. They just don't want to allocate it towards what you want.
We're a public institution. Yeah, but you just got $100 million from ESPN and Fox.
Good grief. It's nuts, dude. It's crazy. And I mean, it's money's going to, until the money stops. And that's kind of where, we have to stop because that's it. Like until the money stops or there's no money. But also too, I don't think this is a sustainable method. Like, what is the end game? Like, I think that's my last question as we get ready to wrap it up here. Like, the end game for all of this. What's the end game?
Make all the money you can. Get while the getting's good. I honestly, and it's going to turn into full blown professional sports. It's going to be like minor league for the NFL, and the NC, and then men's basketball will be. We're going to have a massive G League because I think a lot of, or they could just. I don't know. Basketball is so much different because you look at players that are good in college. They don't even get a look professionally, even really in the G League. They have to go. They have to go to Europe. They have to go to Australia. They have to go overseas to play. So it's just a different ballgame. But yeah, college football will be it'll be a minor league for the NFL.
This is crazy. And you mentioned G League. Used to be known as the D League, developmental league, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's even corporatized. G League is the Gatorade League. It's the sponsorship. I'm telling you guys, this is about to get nuts. It is. Everything is going to be marketable. Everything is going to be that. I just don't know what you do. A couple more things here on this playoff. Thursday, Greg Sankey suggested there's not an agreement among the group yet to expand. On the SEC Network today, he did say people have talked about 12 and 14. Let's set those maybe as bookends to the conversation, put them on a shelf where bookends belong for a moment, get this 12 thing right, get it locked in, and then we'll go forward. Yeah, I'm about that. Was on a walk with my wife, and she said, why would this is a great question. Why would they not see how this 12-team thing went before they even went to 14?
The SEC and the Big Ten can afford to wait and see because they hold all the cards. Yeah. So Greg Sankey, great politician, great political answer there. Perfect for the political season.
Yeah. Another comment on here: while every conference and team will receive more money in 2026 than they do under the current contract, this new revenue split represents a dramatic change. Since the creation of the CFP, the power conferences have roughly equally split 80% of the pot. That gap has now gotten wider, as we talked about earlier. And also, I didn't mention this: the Group of 5 programs are going to get 9%. So I don't know if Ralph's still watching. Troy's going to get $1.8 million a year. But what does that help if there's not a realistic shot?
Hey, look, they should be happy with that. Notre Dame gets 1%.
It's got
Notre Dame, the independents in Notre Dame, but who else is independent? Because Army's going to the American.
UConn, I believe, is still independent.
Is UMass independent, or do they rejoin the MAC?
Remember, they're joining the MAC. You
Yeah.
Remember you broke that news.
I break news.
I guess so. Okay, it does say Notre Dame's going to get $12 million.
Okay,
this is crazy.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
Around $12 million. Yep.
29% is going to go to the Big Ten and SEC. 17 to the ACC. 15 to the Big 12. 9 goes to the Group of 5. The remainder goes to the independents. 12 million around or more than to go to Notre Dame, and then the FCS just gets the rest. Okay, what does that tell me, Will? They're minor leagues. We're officially starting to and we always knew it, but with the introduction of the portal, they're officially starting to say, yeah, you're the minor leagues. They're doing this. They're just not out. They're saying it, but they're not saying it.
Yeah, I'm a big Barstool guy, so I listened to Pardon My Take. They had Rick Pitino on this week, and he was talking. Interview. It was so good, and he was talking about this. He was like, it would be much more enjoyable. Like, coaching in college would be much better if they just make it professional and we sign all these guys to 2 or 3 year contracts, so they have to stay with us for more than a year, because you're recruiting nonstop in every sport. So it's what I liked from it is basketball is going through the same problems that football is. You have to constantly recruit your own roster. Everybody's getting burned out. He said this is the least enjoyable time he's had coaching in his life. And he's back coaching college. And it's just because of all the work. And he says he sits in meetings and we're hearing this guy from North Carolina might go in the portal. This guy from Oklahoma might go in the portal. It's just you have to work 365 days a year as a college coach now.
I know it's not a big conference, but he also mentioned in that interview the MAC, which is the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, not the mid or whatever it is. It's where he was at Iona last. Mm-hmm. And he talked about, he said, if you go look at the top players, like those all conference teams from last year, they're all gone.
Yep. They're
all gone. And I hate that, man. I hate it for the sport. I like it for the kids. I will say that.
It's great.
It's good for the kids. Like, if you're recruited and your ability in high school is to be a D2 guy or an FCS guy, and you do that and you work your butt off and you get a chance to go play, high level Power 5 Division I football, Power 4. I mean, that's good for you. Like that. But once again, NIL's a good idea, for a lot of people. The transfer portal, a good idea on paper. Just open Pandora's box, man. And we sit here. I mean, we're sitting here, Will, March 14th, and there's massive decisions. So we're not even talking spring football storylines right now. We're just straight up talking that. All right, last thing I want to get to before we get out of here, got about 15 more minutes, is what does this mean for the ACC? Because a lot of our viewers obviously care about the ACC. We mentioned that, they are – how would you say it? They're viewed because of Clemson's, top heaviness of being in the playoff. But what does it mean? I mean, I'm going to say it again. And some people got mad. Like, you shouldn't bash it. Florida State, if you can get out, you got to get out. Like, I just think you have to get out. And I'm not going to make you the bad guy in that sense, but you texted me. You said, look, tonight we're talking about something that Georgia Tech's going to have a really hard time getting into. Pitt's going to have a real hard time getting into. Wake Forest. Like, if you can get out, and these lawyers are going to keep looking at it, I think you got to try to leave. You have to try to leave.
The ACC really dropped the ball on this. They had a ton of momentum. Obviously, they're still getting some benefits of Clemson being so good and being in the playoff and winning a national title. But they should have capitalized on that momentum. I mean, I know it's easy to say that, at this point, looking back, that they should have done more. But when you hear the rumors, the SEC is going to go get Texas and Oklahoma. The Big Ten is going to poach from you. Like they got poached by the Big Ten. Maryland left the ACC to go to the Big Ten. That should have been a wake up call.
I will say in that all that the ACC did add Louisville, which has been a good addition out of the Big
That's
East.
a good addition.
Or the American.
Pitt, Syracuse, because basketball, Jim Boeheim's retired and their basketball program's fallen off. Which, they did, like you said, they did try to add, but it just kind of seems like they've kind of slept on. Be like, oh, we're okay, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Like they convinced Clemson and Florida State that they'll be okay, and it came back to bite them. It took a while, but it came back to bite them.
I remember because Texas and SEC and Texas and Oklahoma announced in 2021 that summer. I believe it was. Yeah. Okay, yes. So I remember being in Charlotte at the ACC kickoff media days, and we're just kind of milling about, and Jim Phillips, brand new ACC commissioner, is about to take the stage. And no joke, Will, but 10 minutes before this joker gets up, breaking news: Texas and Oklahoma set to join the SEC. And it's nuts because they, at the time, it was just like, oh, wow, like that's crazy. And then I'm not going to say the name publicly, but a certain athletic director of an ACC school, which a lot of our fans, former athletic director, laughed at the media in a press conference when we suggested that NIL and conference expansion was real and going to happen. That AD is no longer with said program. He's at another ACC program as a deputy AD. But what I'm saying is a lot of people didn't take this seriously. And it's serious. It's very real. And the same people who might be in the comments of this show saying, well, the money, I mean, we've had it even dating back to when we did that FSU show at the beginning of the year. The money just doesn't make sense and it'll never happen. But we didn't think players would get paid. We didn't think we'd have mega conferences. I'm not telling you, and I have no inside information to say that this is going to happen. What I'm telling you is that it wouldn't surprise me if it did, because everything that has happened, no one could have really predicted 10 years ago. There were signs, but it's like, it just seems like everything's inevitable at this point. And I don't know if that's just due to just getting beat over the head with a hammer over and over again by this stuff. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're exactly right. And, to your point, if you've been laughing at Bryce, who's said it probably more than me on this show, the ACC is going to get left behind. Just look at this new agreement. You get less automatic qualifiers. You get less money. You've been left behind. You've been left behind.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't doomsday. Like, we're not trying to scare people, but it is like you can't ignore it. And man, to act like, and I said this on Tuesday night's Georgia Tech show, and it's not, I don't want to just be picking on Georgia Tech. We're just using that as an example because Georgia Tech is one of, like, I would argue like 40 or 50, 60 programs that could get left behind in all this. Because I think some of the Group of 5 programs, like they're borderline FCS programs. It's not going to change. Like, if we're just being real, like Rice is not going to change their approach. It just is what it is. Tulsa, they're not changing what they do. But these kind of mid-tier programs, like, it's not us like saying it doesn't matter. They've shown their hand time and time again. They don't value you. They don't. They don't see value in your product. And so they've moved on. And it kind of feels like to me that this little money, because a lot of people are going to read that of, it's $5 million more per school. Well, that makes us feel good. But like we just mentioned, what does it matter? Like, what does it matter if Georgia Tech, if Maryland, if Syracuse, if Illinois, if Iowa, if these programs get that extra $5 million? But like you said, not trying to get political, the same thing happens when we raise minimum wage. They're going to raise everything else, so it all equals out. If everybody's getting it, it doesn't make it special. That's my argument.
And everybody else is getting it, so you're not really gaining anything. Like, Georgia Tech's not gaining anything on Georgia.
Also, as a fan, you don't see that money. That's not your money.
It's not a good example being a different conference. Florida State gets it. Clemson gets that same money. SMU, who has an insane amount of money, gets that $5 million too. So you don't gain anything.
Yeah.
You don't gain anything.
Yeah, I just it just disappoints me to see people just the response of, well, you just don't. I mean, you're just hating on the ACC. No, like we've mentioned multiple times, the ACC and Big 12 are arguably more fun to watch than the SEC and Big 10. You might say, what are you talking about? It's because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know the joke's been, you talking in the
programs.
ACC, it's crazy.
There's programs in the SEC and the Big 10 that are left behind. Vanderbilt. What does Vanderbilt gain from this? Nothing. They're not going to change what they do. I mean, they're going to spend a little money every couple of years. They're going to spend money to start renovations on their stadium 3 weeks before the season starts. That's what they're going to do. But they're not changing their NIL platform. They're not changing what they're going to do. So Rutgers isn't going to change what they do. Illinois is not going to change what they do.
It doesn't. Why does an extra 1.8 or 5, whatever it is, I don't care how much it is, now it's harder for you to make a bowl. Now it's harder for you to recruit. Like, It's not going, it just doesn't help. And they're just throwing you a bone. They're literally just throwing you a bone. They're throwing you a pacifier, and a lot of us are just putting it in this is going to get clipped. You ready for this? A lot of us are just putting it in our mouth, and we're just sucking on it. And we're just sitting there just going like that, and we're excited about it, but we don't realize what's happening. They're leaving you. They're leaving you. And it may be 1, 2, 3, 4 years before it happens. But unless something drastic, legislation, like unless something crazy happens, man, I just don't know what we do.
The Senate's been pushing for it. That's what Tommy Tuberville, who would understand it better than anybody else up there, has been pushing for some legislation just to have some rules in place.
Yeah. Clip that, Gavin. Clip that. I don't know, man. I'm just reading this quote from this past year. This is just God. I mean, I'd love to have him on the show. I just cannot get past this. Jim Phillips has touted this is in July 2023. The ACC's relatively secure position as the number 3 league in TV revenue, which along with the conference's grant of rights deal, which extends until 2036, as a source of optimism. Here's the quote. Revenue generation continues to be a priority, but this league is third right now in revenue as we go forward into wherever the next TV deals are for other conferences. We've had multiple consultants. Third is certainly a good position, but we want to gain traction and financially in order to close the gap with the SEC and Big 10. That is the biggest loser mentality I have ever heard in my life. It is.
We're happy with being third.
We're just happy. We're happy to be here. We are happy to have 2 seats at the dance. It's cool being there.
It's kind of sad to me that
it is. We're making fun of it.
You've got schools. You've got schools and conferences that are going to just have to decide what they are. That's what they're going to have to decide. Like, we've mentioned Rice, we mentioned Vanderbilt. They know who they are. So this to them, like $5 million, sure, I'll take it. Great, why not? Yeah. But like, as far as athletics go, Georgia Tech's got to decide what are they? Are they a baseball school? Are they? Is
like a basketball
just going to keep giving money? They're going to be a baseball school.
Yeah.
They're going to have to decide. North Carolina and Duke, they know who they are. Although their football teams have been relatively successful, most success they've had in about a decade, but they're basketball schools. They're just going to have to pick one and go all out.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we are being it's just how I want this show to be, just very straightforward, but it is sad because I will say this. There are some great traditions at these schools. Yeah, it might not be Death Valley with 100+ K. It might not be, the Eagle flying at Auburn with 86,000, going nuts. 87, I believe. I'm sorry, Will. It might not be those that, are going to see that, but these places do. Like, I'm going to say it again, like Georgia Tech has some it can be a great atmosphere, man. Bobby Dodd was rocking from everything I've heard for that North Carolina game when they won this past year and for clean old-fashioned hate. It was crazy. There's other great venues and great traditions that I feel like we're really going to lose. And it's going to be stories that you and I are going to tell our kids one day of like, they're going to be like, Dad, Virginia Tech, Lane Stadium, like that used to be cool. And we're going to pull up that clip when Boise State went there that one year, and they opened up, I believe,
It's
the
gonna be
first
like-
weekend of the season.
Like stuff we talked to our dads when we were growing up, saying just comment like, yeah, Arkansas and Texas used to play each other every year. We're like, what? We've
Yeah.
never seen them play each other. What do you mean they played all the time?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's going to be harder for us to have those conversations with our kids because it's going to seem outrageous when those ever happen.
Yeah, I just think about stuff like that. Like Virginia Tech's a great example. It's one of the premier environments we've lost and is in danger of losing. I'll even go a step further, like Nebraska. I think Nebraska is going to be a big brand because those folks sell at that stadium when they've won on an average of 4 or 5 games for the past 6 or 7 years.
They sold out for a volleyball game in the football stadium.
It was
Volleyball match. Sorry.
Yeah, watch yourself. Watch yourself. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. No, look, I mean, in all seriousness, we keep it real on the show, but it is sad. And we're going to keep talking about it. But hey, we appreciate you tuning in on a Thursday night. Consistent viewership. Twitter viewership's been great. It's fantastic. If you haven't already, head over to our YouTube channel. It's right there in the link of our profile, The Crowded Booth. Give us a subscription, completely free for you to do. Set up notifications so you know when we go live. Typically, it's going to be Monday nights at, well, I'm going to get this right, I promise, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. We just talked college football. And then during the regular season, man, we really kicked it off this past year talking stuff. Me being more of a visionary, I'd like to do some more stuff, and I think we're really going to try to do that and be more consistent with it this fall. So that's going to be a ton of fun. So enjoy it. Stay with us throughout the summer. A lot of content, obviously, to talk about college football. I mean, it is a full year-round deal where we come up with topics every single Monday to talk about as well. Check out other content on the channel as well. If you're a Georgia Tech fan, you obviously know we have our Tech show as well. Will and I talk some Auburn football too, which is I'll say this, it has been a therapeutic experience for Will to get his feelings. Very. So, yeah. Any final
Down bad.
But you're not down bad on COD, which is what matters. And when the show drops tonight, can't wait. He's Will Mannis. My name's Bryce Koon. We will catch you next time.
Find us on Twitch for MLB The Show.
Yes, we're going to.
Oh my gosh!
Oh Jesus!
Oh my!
Good Lord! That's great stuff. Well, there we go. Hey, I heard you walk the bases loaded. We'll talk to you next time.
Shade.
Will Mannis, Bryce Koon, Ralph Leary.
Somewhere.
Rest
He's
in
alive
peace.
at least.
We'll see you next time.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.